Let's turn now to a member of the Ukrainian parliament, Marian Zablotsky, who is with President Zelensky's party, and Igor Novikov, former Zelensky advisor. Marian, what was your reaction today to the president's speech?
Well, first of all, we are always grateful to President Biden since he makes very strong case towards supporting Ukraine. And we are, of course, grateful to President and to American taxpayers for the $14 billion already provided to Ukraine. We know that this is still a lot of money, even in the United States. But we think that more needs to be done. Of course, we will never stop asking not just for additional aid, but for additional diplomatic efforts and for additional arms, because we think this is not only about Ukraine. As you have been telling correctly, people in Poland, in other countries, are also afraid, because currently it's not only about Ukraine, the whole structure of the world order is being challenged. So for the first time since the Second World War, the country is being invaded and the borders are being attempted to change by force. So this is the situation that we are in.
Igor, what did you hear in Biden's speech? And more importantly, were there things that you did not hear that you were hoping to hear?
Well, first of all, it was very reminiscent of the famous Iron Curtain speech that Churchill delivered in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a very strong speech, in my opinion. And there's only one thing missing. I mean, speeches don't win wars, soldiers do. So hopefully equally strong actions will follow an impressive speech. So, so far so good, but we need to win this war for everyone.
So, Marian, one of those actions that Igor just referred to came late this week when the White House announced an additional $1 billion in new funding towards humanitarian assistance for those affected by Russia's war in Ukraine. And the U.S. committed itself to welcoming 100,000 refugees fleeing the war. What more, in your view, does Ukraine need at this point from the U.S. and NATO?
Arms. The more arms, the better, because ultimately the number of refugees and the outcome of the war will be decided on the battlefield. We are still not receiving the type of weapons that will allow us to shoot the Russian airplanes independent of whether they are flying. So Stinger missiles are great, but these are only very short-range weapons. We need much more powerful weapons to stop them. I think if we do have enough weaponry, then we will stop them, because at the moment, Russia's military budget is 12 times that of Ukraine. So Ukraine, prior to the war, was spending in a year what Russia was spending in 1 month. Without having significant bullets, we will not win. So as our president said, he does not need an airlift, he needs bullets and ammunition.
So Igor, to that point, the Washington Post is reporting that Ukrainian officials were very disappointed in the outcome of the emergency NATO and EU summits this week. And President Zelensky's chief of staff was quoted as saying, "We expected more bravery. We expected some bold decisions." What is your sense of how President Zelensky is feeling about all of this right now?
Well, you'll have to ask President Zelensky about how he's feeling. But, I've been working with Andriy Yermak, his chief of staff, for a long while. And if I'm not mistaken, Andriy's been asking for Patriot missiles, Patriot defense systems since last spring. And, basically, the outcome on the battlefield is decided by our soldiers. And we're making up for that, difference in budgets and in military hardware in lives of Ukrainian soldiers, and we really don't have to. Those lives need to be saved. And look, I hear the sentiment coming out of Poland, and let me assure you, at least from the civil society kind of point of view, if Poland is ever attacked, we don't need governments, we don't need any long meetings to decide what we're going to do next. We're going to come to their help as they did for us. So.
Yeah, that's an important point. And Marian, in that regard, what was your assessment of the NATO and EU meetings this week? Were you expecting from the meeting? What were you expecting from the meetings? And what did you see that may have been somewhat disappointing?
Well, we do expect that more stronger weapons will be provided in the end to Ukraine, because that's all that matters. Humanitarian aid to refugees is great, but if we do not have enough weapons that we need to successfully tackle Russians, there will be millions more of refugees. Alleviating their pain is great, but we do need S-300 missiles. We do need, which are relatively comparable to Patriot missiles. We need just them right here in Ukraine. And as our president said, all we need is 1% of NATO airplanes and 1% of NATO firepower here in Ukraine, and we will for sure fend off Russians very quickly. And it will not even take months, it will be much quicker. Even with the current weapons, we destroyed more than 500 Russian tanks. So they are already crumbling and crashing. We just need more powerful weapons.
Ariane Zabolotsky and Igor Novikov, thank you both very, very much, and be safe. Next, reaction to the president's speech from here at home. Plus, a moving moment at this week's Supreme Court confirmation hearing we think you should see. Stick around.